But Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and you like it was totally baked, half baked, and you went on stage with it. This is like low information, blue no matter who, like older housewives who are mad at the world. That's the appeal that Whoopi Goldberg has. Does Whoopi have children?
So you know who made a campaign stop on the Joe Rogan podcast Friday night. And with all the issues Americans are going to be voting on, you know where they started the interview? Take a look.
It was the episode of You when you're on The View.
You won't believe this, but Joe Rogan just ripped Whoopi Goldberg to shreds on his show, and the internet is absolutely losing it. The comedian and podcaster torched Whoopi for her latest batch of bizarre hot takes. And let's just say it was glorious. So what exactly did Whoopi say to send Rogan into full roast mode? And how's the world reacting to this verbal smackdown? We've got all the juicy details right here, so grab a seat, maybe some popcorn, and buckle up. This one's a ride.
It's the show that people love to hate.
Yes, that's true.
They get so much hate watching and hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a rabies-infested hen house.
and at the same time, it seemed like the most interesting part was their audience seemed to be on my side.
Yes.
And that's their audience.
Rogan and Whoopi Goldberg have a strained history. Let's just say, they won't be exchanging Christmas cards anytime soon. Rogan's had a bone to pick with Whoopi ever since she signed up for the far-left woke brigade, and he's been calling her out ever since. Sure, Goldberg lobbed a few weak punches of her own, but Rogan's scorching takedowns usually left her wobbling. But his latest rant, it's looking like the knockout punch because The View's queen of nonsense is still scrambling for a halfway decent clapback. And you can't blame Rogan, especially when Whoopi keeps coming up with comments like this.
What Whoopi Goldberg said?
What'd she say?
Whoopi Goldberg said that Biden could arrest all the Republicans and put them in jail. You just need to see how unhinged this kind of thinking is. Well, you know what Joe Biden could do? Joe Biden, you have to see it because it's so
on TV.
crazy.
She said
on television. Find that
You know,
Jamie, because it's so.
Let's look at this scenario where the Supreme Court says, yes, he has all those rights. He is immune from everything. You know what Joe Biden could do since he is presently president? What? Ooh. He could throw every Republican in jail. Yeah. I mean,
Claps.
he could. I mean, no. This is not a good thing because he can go. What this means is he could do anything.
That's not what it means at all.
Joe Rogan is calling her unhinged because seriously, who thinks like this? It's beyond absurd to suggest that if Trump gets presidential immunity, then Biden could suddenly start rounding up Republicans and tossing them in jail with zero consequences. That's not just a bad take, that's next-level delusion, but this is how the woke mob operates. Fear-mongering, twisting reality, and peddling the wildest hypotheticals as if they're facts. At this point, you have to wonder, do they even believe their own nonsense? Or is this just their favorite hobby? Now watch as Joe Rogan and his guest pick Whoopi Goldberg apart.
If you're willing to let Donald Trump use presidential immunity, that means Joe Biden could just go crazy and arrest all the Republicans. Because that's what that means. No, that's not what that means. Even a little bit.
Yeah.
You just added a whole bunch of stuff to what that means.
I mean, in fairness, though, I mean, The View has to be, if you average out The View hosts, among the dumbest people on television. And so it's like they say the thing that people are thinking, but they say it very directly, so they expose whatever truth. But
I don't think some of them are dumb.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think Sunny Host.
You think it's
dumb.
deliberate?
I think she's ideologically driven, and they have blinders on for sure. I don't think Sunny's dumb. But Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and you like it was totally baked, half baked, and you went on.
Rogan and his guest couldn't have said it better. I've been screaming this from the rooftops. Whoopi Goldberg isn't exactly the sharpest tool in the view shed, and that's saying something considering the false intellectual powerhouses she shares that table with. Forget the awards, the movies, the stand-up career. None of that changes the fact that her takes are about as well thought out as a TikTok conspiracy theory. The lady is running on fumes, dry grass, and an empty tank. She's basically a human wildfire warning. And yet there she is, tossing out ridiculous hypotheticals like she's breaking new ground. At this point, Whoopi's hot takes are less thought-provoking and more cause for concern. But Rogan doesn't stop there.
There's nothing there. Sometimes comics do that.
Yeah, and
For
then
fun.
the other question is then, is that representative of a big constituency? I think probably yes.
Well, a lot
And
of people...
MSNBC viewers are probably also thinking,
I don't
we
even
gotta-
think the MSNBC viewers. I think
That's
they're a
too
little
far.
bit more sophisticated than that.
Yeah.
This is like low information, blue no matter who, like older housewives who are mad at the world.
Mm.
That's the appeal that Whoopi Goldberg has. Does Whoopi have children?
No idea.
It's interesting too, like really politically motivated older women who don't have children.
Joe Rogan makes a solid point. Now, for the record, Whoopi does have a daughter, Alex Martin, who's even appeared in a few of her movies. But Alex stays mostly under the radar, and that's beside the point. What Rogan is really saying is that people without kids often lack a personal stake in the future. They aren't thinking about the long-term consequences because, well, it won't affect their family tree. So what do? They hitch their wagon to the woke mob, pushing reckless policies with zero thought. After all, why worry about the mess when someone else's grandkids will have to clean it up? It's the ultimate not my problem mentality disguised as activism. They get to play social justice warrior today without facing the consequences tomorrow.
There's a lot of young, like hot Republican women that are social influencers now too, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun to see like these trends. You see them in things where people realize like, oh, this is a path to success. I'm going to be a black Trump supporter. You know,
Totally.
they just run with it.
Yeah.
You see a little bit of that. But I feel like with a lot of moms that I know that were like hippies. They were like, and then they had kids and they're like, fuck this, like immediately. Like a buddy of mine's mom who was like super fucking left wing, like full on leftist. She had kids, and then the riots and COVID and all the chaos. Just like fuck this. Like it red pilled so many of those folks. They're just not talking about it.
Last November's presidential elections clearly demonstrated Americans are ditching the left in droves because, well, there's simply nothing there. It's all smoke mirrors and bad ideas wrapped in a virtue signaling package. Most mothers have seen the emptiness of wokeness and are fleeing from it like it's the plague. Now, I don't expect mothers like Whoopi Goldberg to get it because her kids are in their 50s, long past the age of indoctrination. But younger mothers, they're watching the chaos unfold in real time. They see their kids being force-fed radical nonsense in schools, the rise in crime, and the complete disregard for traditional values. They feel the consequences of woke liberalism firsthand.
Many of those folks, they're just not talking about it. They don't talk about it outwardly because they're real uncomfortable with being ostracized and being yelled at, especially with like groups of their old friends that are single, that still live in Los Angeles. You know, especially if you start like certain ideological hubs, you know, like fucking Silver Lake. There's like these spots where you can't escape.
Dude, I lived in Topanga Canyon for a year.
Oh boy, that's a good one.
The left is so vindictive that anyone who dares abandon their ideology is immediately cast out like a traitor. It's a cult mentality. Step out of line and you're excommunicated. That's why so many people stay silent about their excesses, especially those within the same circles. Even on The View, the so-called champions of tolerance Whoopi Goldberg Sunny, host and Joy Behar seem to spend more time attacking their own co-hosts than engaging in actual discussions. If you don't toe the line, you become a target. Just ask Alyssa Farah Griffin, who's been mocked and belittled on air and even called childless simply for having a differing opinion.